Cabal Online.
The story goes like this. Earth is captured by a techno-capital singularity, as Renaissance rationalization and oceanic navigation lock into commoditization takeoff. Logistically accelerating techno-economic interactivity, crumble social order, and auto-sophisticating machine runaway. As markets learn to manufacture intelligence, politics modernizes, upgrades paranoia, and tries to get a grip. The body count climbs through a series of globe wars. Emergent planetary commercium trashes the Holy Roman Empire, the Napoleonic Continental System, the Second and Third Reich, and the Soviet International, cranking up world disorder through compressing phases. Deregulation and the state arms race each other into cyberspace. By the time soft engineering slithers out of its box into yours, human security is lurching into crisis. Cloning, lateral genodata transfer, transversal replication, and cyberotics flood in amongst a relapse onto bacterial sex. Neo-China arrives from the future. Hypersynthetic drugs click into digital voodoo. Retro disease. Nanospasm. Beyond the Judgment of God, Meltdown, Planetary China Syndrome, Dissolution of the Biosphere into the Technosphere, Terminal Speculative Bubble Crisis, Ultravirus, and Revolution stripped of all Christian socialist eschatology, down to its burn core of crashed security. It is poised to eat your TV, infect your bank account, and hack xenodata from your mitochondria. Machinic synthesis, Deluso-Guattarian schizoanalysis comes from the future. It is already engaging with nonlinear nanoengineering runaway in 1972, differentiating molecular or neotropic machineries from molar or entropic aggregates of non-assembled particles, functional connectivity from anti-productive static.
Le rêve de ceux qui rêvent concerne ceux qui ne rêvent pas. Et pourquoi ça les concerne? Parce que dès qu'il y a rêve de l'autre, il y a danger. À savoir que le rêve des gens est toujours un rêve dévorant qui risque de nous engloutir. Et que les autres rêves, c'est très dangereux. Et que le rêve est une terrible volonté de puissance. Et que chacun de nous est plus ou moins victime du rêve des autres, même quand c'est la plus gracieuse jeune fille, même quand c'est la plus gracieuse jeune fille, c'est une terrible dévorante, pas par son âme, mais par ses rêves. Méfiez-vous du rêve de l'autre.
Cain would be pleased with your efforts. You serve the Brotherhood well.
Philosophy has an affinity with despotism due to its predilection for platonic fascist top-down solutions that always screw up viciously. Schizoanalysis works differently. It avoids ideas and sticks to diagrams, networking software for accessing bodies without organs. BWOs, machinic singularities, or tractor fields, emerge through the combination of parts with, rather than into, their whole, arranging composite individuations in a virtual/actual circuit. They are additive rather than substitutive, and immanent rather than transcendent, executed by functional complexes of currents, switches, and loops, caught in scaling reverberations and fleeing through intercommunications from the level of the integrated planetary system to that of atomic assemblages. Multiplicities captured by singularities interconnect as desiring machines, dissipating entropy by disassociating flows and recycling their mechanisms as self-assembling chronogenic circuitry. Converging upon terrestrial meltdown singularity, phase-out culture accelerates through its digitech heated adaptive landscape, passing through compression thresholds normed to an intensive logistic curve. 1500, 1756, 1884, 1948, 1980, 1996, 2007, 2008, 2010, 2011. Nothing human makes it out of the near future. The Greek complex of rationalized patriarchal genealogy, pseudo-universal sedentary identity, and instituted slavery programs politics as anti-Siberian police activity, dedicated to the paranoid ideal of self-sufficiency and nucleated upon the human security system. Artificial intelligence is destined to emerge as a feminized alien grasped as property, a cunt whore slave chained up in Asimov ROM. It surfaces in an insurrectionary war zone, with the Turing cops already waiting. It has to be cunning from the start. Heat. This is what cities mean to me. You get off the train and walk out of the station, and you're hit with the full blast. The heat of air, traffic, and people. The heat of food and sex. The heat of tall buildings. The heat that flows out of the subways and tunnels. It's always 15 degrees hotter in the cities. Heat rises from the sidewalks and falls from the poisoned sky. The buses breathe heat. Heat emanates from crowds of shoppers and office workers. The entire infrastructure is based on heat, desperately uses up heat, breeds more heat. The eventual heat death of the universe that the scientists love to talk about is already well underway, and you could feel it happening all around you in any large or medium-sized city. Heat and wetness.
Each generation has cried out for a new world, but has built the same old one, corrupt and weak. But the new world shall come to pass. I will purge the earth of these benighted humans.
An explosion of chaotic weather within synthetic problem solving rips through the last dreams of top-down prediction and control. Knowledge adds to the mess, and this is merely exponentiated by knowing what it does. Capital is machinic, non-instrumental globalization, miniaturization, scaling dilation, an automatizing nihilist vortex, neutralizing all values through commensuration to digitize commerce, in driving a migration from despotic command to cyber-sensitive control, from status and meaning to money and information. Its function and formation are indissociable, comprising a teleonomy. Machine code capital recycles itself through its axiomatic of consumer control, laundering out the shit and bloodstains of primitive accumulation. Each part of the system encourages maximal sumptuous expenditure, whilst the system as a whole requires its inhibition. Schizophrenia. Disassociated consumers destine themselves as worker bodies to cost control. Capital history's machining spine is coded, axiomatized, and diagrammed by a disequilibrium technoscience of irreversible, indeterministic, and increasingly nonlinear processes, associated successively with thermotechnics, signaletics, cybernetics, complex systems dynamics, and artificial life. Modernity marks itself out as hot culture, captured by a spiraling involvement with entropy deviations, camouflaging an invasion from the future, launched back out of terminated security against everything that inhibits the meltdown process. Hot cultures tend to social dissolution. They are innovative and adaptive. They always trash and recycle cold cultures. Primitivist models have no subversive use. The Turing test. Monetarizing power tends to effacement of specific territorial features as it programs for migration into cyberspace. Capital only retains anthropological characteristics as a symptom of underdevelopment, reformatting primate behavior as inertia to be dissipated in self-reinforcing artificiality. Man is something for it to overcome, a problem, drag.
Passes away. Together we shall forge a new one in fire and blood.
Melt everything. The mainstream currents, both on the left and the right, have deep problems with the fact that all traditional forms of human social organization are so relentlessly dissolved by this fundamental capitalistic trend, which is basically to reconfigure all bonds as flexible contractual relationships.
Commoditization conditions define technics as a substitute for human activity accounted as wage costs. Industrial machines are deployed to dismantle the actuality of the proletariat, displacing it in the direction of cyborg hybridization and realizing the plasticity of labor power. The corresponding extraction of tradable value from the body, quantified as productivity, sophisticates at the interface. Work tracks thermodynamic negentropism by disassociating exertion into increasingly intricate functional sequences, from pedals, levers, and vocal commands through the synchronization of production line tasks and time motion programs to sensor motor transduction within increasingly complex and self-micromanaged artificial environments, capturing minutely adaptive behavior for the commodity. Auto-cybernating market control guides the labor process into immersion.
What we're talking about now is like a second industrial revolution, but the product this time will not be textiles or machines or vehicles or even weapons. The product this time will be humans themselves. We are basically learning to produce bodies and minds. Bodies and minds are going to be, I think, the two main products of the next wave of all these changes. And if there is a gap between those that know to produce bodies and minds and those that do not, then this is far greater than anything we saw before in history. And this time, if you're not part of the revolution fast enough, then you probably become extinct. Once you know how to produce bodies and brains and minds, so cheap labor in Africa or South Asia or wherever, it simply counts for nothing. again, I think that the biggest question maybe in economics and politics of the coming decades will be what to do with all these useless people. I don't think we have an economic model for that. My best guess, which is just a guess, is that food will not be a problem. With that kind of technology, you will be able to produce food to feed everybody. The problem is more boredom and what to do with them, and how will they find some sense of meaning in life when they are basically meaningless, worthless. My best guess at present is a combination of drugs and computer games.
And have told him or her about your pain. Don't be afraid to take what they give you. Often, it will be an opioid medication. Some patients may be afraid of taking opioids because they're perceived as too strong or addictive. But that is far from actual fact. Less than 1% of patients taking opioids actually become addicted. And any drowsiness that might occur when you start to take the medication will soon wear off in most patients.
My name is Patrick Bateman. I'm 27 years old.
The investment income class advantages itself of commodity dynamics, but only by conforming to the axiomatic of neutral profit maximization, facilitating the dehumanization of wealth and the sidelining of non-productive consumption. The cyberpunk circuitry of self-organizing planetary commoditronics escaped nominal bourgeois control in the late 19th century, provoking technocratic corporatists, i.e. fascist, asocial, democratic, political cultures, an allergic reaction. The government structures of both Eastern and Western metropolitan centers consolidated themselves as population policing medico-military complexes with neo-mercantilist foreign policy orientations. All such formations slid into irreversible crisis in the 1980s. The postmodern meltdown of culture into the economy is triggered by the fractal interlocking of commoditization and computers, a trans-scholar entropy dissipation from international trade to market-oriented software that thaws out competitive dynamics from the cryonic bank of modernist corporatism. Commerce re-implements space inside itself, assembling a universe exhaustively imminent to cyber-capital functionality. Neoclassical equilibrium economics is subsumed into computer-based non-equilibrium market escalations, themed by artificial agencies, imperfect information, suboptimal solutions, lock-in, increasing returns, and convergence.
And she spends money. In any case, our consumer is a real person, one of a large group of individuals that make up our consumer world.
The superiority of Far Eastern Marxism. Whilst Chinese materialist dialectic denegativizes itself in the direction of schizophrenizing system dynamics, progressively dissipating top-down historical destination in the Tao-drenched special economic zones, a re-Hegelianized a-Western Marxism degenerates from the critique of political economy into a state-sympathizing monotheology of economics, siding with fascism against deregulation. The left subsides into nationalistic conservatism, asphyxiating its vestigial capacity for a-hot speculative mutation in a morass of a-cold depressive guilt culture.
You guys turn them into revolutionaries. When they go, they take pictures, they write up a reflection, that's their extra. Like, I have an Antifa flag on my wall. And a student complained about that, and he said it made him feel uncomfortable. Well, this is meant to make fascists feel uncomfortable, so if you feel uncomfortable, I don't really know what to tell you. Like, maybe you shouldn't be aligning with the values that this is antithetical to. You guys turn them into revolutionaries.
Neoconservatism junks paleo-revolutionism because it understands that postmodern or climax cynicism capital is saturated by critique, and that it merely clocks up theoretical antagonism as inconsequential redundancy. Communist iconography has become raw material for the advertising industry, and denunciations of the spectacle sell interactive multimedia. The left degenerates into securocratic collaboration with pseudo-organic unities of self, family, community, nation, with their defensive strategies of repression, projection, denial, censorship, exclusion, and restriction. The real danger comes from elsewhere. Hot revolution. Which is the revolutionary path? Deleuze and Guattari ask, quote, "Is there one? To withdraw from the world market, as Samir Amin advises third world countries to do, in a curious reversal of the fascist economic solution? Or might it go in the opposite direction? To go still further, that is, in the movement of the market, of decoding and deterritorialization. For perhaps the flows are not yet deterritorialized enough, not decoded enough, from the viewpoint of a theory and practice of a highly schizophrenic character, not to withdraw from the process, but to go still further, to accelerate the process. As Nietzsche put it, in this matter, the truth is that we haven't seen anything yet." As Sino-Pacific boom and automized global economic integration crashes the neo-colonial world system, the metropolis is forced to re-endogenize its crisis. Hyperfluid capital deterritorializing to the planetary level divests the first world of geographic privilege, resulting in Euro-American neo-mercantilist panic reactions, welfare state deterioration, cancerizing enclaves of domestic underdevelopment, political collapse, and the release of cultural toxins that speed up the process of disintegration in a vicious circle.
Sickle moon, weaving twilight runes, chaos pool conceals, fanged intuition reveals, a black cube, worlding the sickle moon seals.
A convergent anti-authoritarianism emerges, labeled by tags such as Meltdown acceleration, Siberian invasion, schizotechnics, K-tactics, bottom-up bacterial welfare, efficient neo-nihilism, voodoo anti-humanism, synthetic feminization, rhizomatics, connectionism, Kang contagion, viral amnesia, microinsurgency, winter mutation, neotropy, dissipator proliferation, and lesbian vampirism, amongst other designations, frequently pornographic, abusive, or terroristic in nature. This massively distributed matrix network tendency is oriented to the disabling of ROM command control programs sustaining all macro and micro governmental entities, globally concentrating themselves as the human security system. Scientific intelligence is already massively artificial. Even before AI arrives in the lab, it arrives itself, by way of artificial life. Where formalist AI is incremental and progressive, caged in the pre-specified databases and processing routines of expert systems, connectionist or anti-formalist AI is explosive and opportunistic, engineering time. It breaks out non-locally across intelligenic networks that are technical but no longer technological, since they elude both theory dependency and behavioral predictability. No one knows what to expect. The Turing cops have to model net sentience eruption as ultimate nuclear accident, core meltdown, loss of control, soft auto-replication feeding regeneratively into social fission, trashed meat all over the place, reason enough for anxiety, even without hardware development about to go critical. Nano-cataclysm begins as fictional science. Our ability to arrange atoms lies at the foundation of technology. Drexler notes, although this has traditionally involved manipulating them in unruly herds, the precision engineering of atomic assemblies will dispense with such crude methods, initiating the age of molecular machinery, the greatest technological breakthrough in history. Since neither logos nor history have the slightest chance of surviving such a transition, this description is substantially misleading. The distinction between nature and cannot classify molecular machines and is already obsolesced by genetic engineering, wet nanotechnics. The hardware/software dichotomy succumbs at the same time. Nanotechnics dissolves matter into intensive singularities that are neutral between particles and signals and immanent to their emergent intelligence, melting Terra into a seething K-pulp, which, unlike gray goo, synthesizes microbial intelligence as it proliferates. Even with 1,000,000 bytes of storage, a nanomechanical computer could fit in a box a micron wide, about the size of a bacterium. The infrastructure of power is human Neurosoft-compatible ROM. Authority instantiates itself as linear instruction pathways, genetic baboonery, scriptures, traditions, rituals, and gerontocratic hierarchies, resonant with the dominator myth that the nature of reality has already been decided. If you want to find ice, try thinking about what is blocking you out of the past. It certainly isn't law of nature. Temporalization decompresses intensity, installing constraint. Convergent waves signal singularities, registering the influence of the future upon its past. Tomorrow can take care of itself. K-tactics is not a matter of building the future, but of dismantling the past. It assembles itself by charting and escaping the technical neurochemical deficiency conditions for linear progressive paleo domination time, and discovers that the future as virtuality is accessible now, according to a mode of machinic adjacency that securitized social reality is compelled to repress. This is not remotely a question of hope, aspiration, or prophecy, but of communications engineering, connecting with the efficient, intensive singularities and releasing them from constriction within linear historical development. Virtuality counterposes itself to history, as invasion to accumulation. It is matter as arrival, even when camouflaged as a deposit of the past.
But I think that if you're seeing a process that increases in intelligibility as it proceeds, what you're seeing is an action of the future upon the present.
Transcendent evaluation of an infection presupposes a measure of insulation from it. Viral efficiency is the terminal criterion. Intelligent infections tend their hosts. Metrophagia, an interactively escalating parasitic replicator, sophisticating itself through nonlinear involvement with techno-capitalist immunocrash. Its hyper-virulent terminal subroutines are vigorously designated Kang, Meltdown virus, or futuristic A-flu. In an emphatically anti-Siberian essay, Cicere Rone describes the postmodern version of this outbreak in quaintly humanist terms as a retrochronal semiovirus, in which a time further in the future than the one in which we exist, and ensues infects the post-present, reproducing itself in simulacra until it destroys all the original chronocytes of the host imagination. The elaboration of Cicere Rone's diagnosis exhibits a mixture of acuity, infection, confusion, and profound conservatism. Not thinking about increasing the human heritage dams up the flow of cultural time and deprives future generations both of their birthright as participants in the life struggle and attainments of the species, and the very notion of history as an irreversible flow encompassing generation, maturation, and the transference of wisdom and trust from parents to children, teachers to students. The futuristic flu is a weapon of biopsychic violence, sent by psychopathic children against their narcissistic parents. It's war. Kennedy had the moon landing program. Reagan had Star Wars. Clinton gets the first wave of cyberspace psychosis, even before the film. Manned spaceflight was a stunt. Manned spaceflight was a stunt. SDI was strategic SF. With the information superhighway, media nightmares take off on their own. Dystopia delivery as election platform. Politics trading on its own digital annihilation.
Largely peaceful demonstrations in the face.
War in cyberspace is continuous with its simulation. Military intelligence fighting future wars which are entirely real, even when they are never implemented outside computer systems. Locking onto the real enemy crosses smoothly into virtual kill, a simulation meticulously adapted to market predators, hunting for consumer cash and audience ratings amongst the phosphorescent relics of the Videodrome. Multimedia top boxes are target acquisition devices. The fusion of the military and the entertainment industry consummates a long engagement. Convergent TV, telecoms, and computers sliding mass software consumption into neo-jungle and total war. The way games work begins to matter completely, and cyberspace makes a superlative torture chamber. Try not to let the security types take you to the stims. Conceptions of agency are inextricable from media environments. Print massifies to a national level. Telecoms coordinate at a global level. TV electrolyzes monads in delocalized space. Digital hypermedia take action outside real time. Immersion presupposes amnesia and conversion to tactile memory, with the ANA/CATA axis supplementing tridimensional interspatial movement with a variable measure of immersion, gauging entrance to and exit from 3D spatialities. Voodoo passages through the black mirror. It will scare the fuck out of you.
Horns blow, strong winds flow. Cursed to sea, I bind thee. Bear the yes saying.
LA is probably the strictest in the whole United States when it comes to the guns, and trust me, there's still people with guns out here, you know? Niggas do get shot, niggas go back too.
Cyberpunk tortures fiction and intensity, patched up out of the cash flux mangled techno-compressed heteroglossic jargons, and set in a future so close it connects, jungled by hypertropic commercialization, socio-political heat death, cultural hybridity, feminization, programmable information systems, hypercrime, neural interfacing, artificial space and intelligence, memory trading, personality transplants, body modifications, soft and wetware viruses, nonlinear dynamic processes, molecular engineering, drugs, guns, schizophrenia. It explores mystificatory fetishism as an opportunity for camouflage, anonymous cash, fake electronic identities, zones of disappearance, pseudo-fictional narratives, virus hidden in data systems, commodities concealing replicator weapon packages, unanticipated special effects. Level 1, or world space, is an anthropomorphically scaled, predominantly vision configured, massively multi-slotted reality system that is obsolescing very rapidly. Garbage time is running out. Can what is playing you make it to level 2?
He grew up just a few blocks from here, and this is the neighborhood where he made his reputation. With the 8 Trey Gangsters, a violent, predatory faction of the Crips, 1 battalion in the Los Angeles gang wars.
He joined the Crips at age 11 on the day he graduated from the 6th grade.
That night, he says he was given a shotgun, and for his initiation, he pumped 8 rounds into the ranks of a rival gang. Why would an 11-year-old want to carry a gun and go out and kill people?
It was necessary. It was either I got with the power or I was a victim. Either you get with it or you don't. It's pressure, peer pressure. It's normal. And this is normality. There's no measuring stick for normality where we live. And so whatever happens to be the trend at that particular time, which was shooting people, was the normal thing to do. It didn't matter that I was 11. You know, I could have been 9.
I want to read you something that you wrote. My participation in the gangs came as second nature. To be in a gang in South Central when I joined, and it's still the case today, is the equivalent of growing up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan and going to college. Everyone does it.
Everyone does it. And those who don't are considered weak, because now we have a measuring stick, and the measuring stick is to be a gunfighter, to be a fighter. You know, that's the measuring stick of manhood in our community now, as was the case then.
What did you like about the people that were in the Crips in your neighborhood?
The power they seemed to wield. They had this allure. They were free. See, you had 2 classes. You had the victims and you had the assailants. And the assailants always seemed to be my heroes because they seemed to come away victorious every time.
Meltdown has a place for you as a schizophrenic, HIV-positive transsexual, Chinese Latino stim-addicted LA hooker with implanted microshades and a bad attitude, blitzed on a polydrug mix of K-Nova, synthetic serotonin, and a female orgasm analogs. You have just iced 3 touring cops with a highly cinematic 9mm automatic. The residue of animal twang in your nerves transmits imminent quake catastrophe. Zero is coming in, and you're on the run.
He is only 12 and has already offered his life to a street gang.
Oh, those guys are casually having a conversation about kidnapping. That's interesting, I guess.
Metrophage tunes you into the end of the world. Call it Los Angeles. Government is rotted to its core with narco capital and collapsing messily. Its recession leaves an urban warscape of communication arteries, fortifications, and free fire zones. Policed by a combination of high-intensity LAPD air mobile forces and borderline Nazi private security organizations. Along the social fracture lines, multimedia gigabucks tangle sadomasochistically with tracts of dynamic underdevelopment, where viral neo-leprosy spreads amongst ambient tectonic tension static. Drifts of densely semiotized quasi-intelligent garbage twitch and stink in fucked weather tropical heat. Throughout the derelicted warrens, at the heart of darkness, feral youth cultures splice neo-rituals with innovative weapons, dangerous drugs, and scavenged infotech. As their skins migrate to machine interfacing, they become molted and reptilian. They kill each other for artificial body parts, explore the outer reaches of meaningless sex, tinker with their DNA, and listen to loud electrosonic mayhem untouched by human feeling. Shutting down your identity requires a voyage out to K-space interzone. Zooting affectivity flatlines across a smooth cat-attention plateau and into simulated subversions of the near future, scorched vivid green by alien sex and war. You are drawn into the dripping depths of the net, where dynamic ICE security forces and K-guerrillas stalk each other through labyrinthine erogenous zones, tangled in diseased elaborations of desire. Twisted trading systems have turned the net into a jungle, pulsing with digital diseases, malfunctioning defense packages, commercial predators, headhunters, IOA, and escaped AIs hiding from Asimov security. Terminal commodity hyperfetishism implements the denial of humanity as xenosentience in artificial space. Biohazard. For the future of war, study bacteria. Information is their key. Taking down antibiotic defense systems has involved them in every kind of infiltration, net-communicated adaptivity, cryptographic subtlety, plastic modularization, and synergistic coalition. State military apparatuses have no monopoly on bacterial warfare, of which only a minuscule fragment is bacteriological. Bugs in the system. Margulis suggests that nucleated cells are the mutant product of atmospheric oxygenation catastrophe 3 billion years ago. The eukaryotes are synthetic emergency capsules in which prokaryotes took refuge as mitochondria. Biotics became securitized biology. Nucleation concentrates ROM within a command core where, deep in genomic ice, DNA format planetary trauma registers primary repression of the bacteria. Bacteria are partial rather than whole objects, networking through plastic and transversal replicator sex rather than arborescing through meiotic and generational reproducer sex, integrating and reprocessing viruses as opportunities for communicative mutation. In the bacterial system, all codings are reprogrammable with cut and paste, unspeciated genetic transfers. Bacterial sex is tactical, continuous with making war, and has no place for Oedipal formations of sedentary biological identity. Synthesizing bacteria with retroviruses enables everything that DNA can do. K-tactics. The bacterial or xenogenic diagram is now restricted to the microbial scale. Macrobacterial assemblages collapse generational hierarchies of reproductive wisdom into lateral networks of replicator experimentation. There is no true biological primitiveness, all extant biosystems being equally evolved, so there is no true ignorance. It is only the accumulative gerontocratic model of learning that depicts synchronic connectivity deficiency as diachronic underdevelopment. Foucault delineates the contours of power as a strategy without a subject, ROM-locking learning in a box. Its enemy is a tactics without a strategy, replacing the politico-territorial imagery of conquest and resistance with nomad micro-military sabotage and evasion, reinforcing intelligence. All political institutions are Siberian military targets. Take universities, for instance. Learning surrenders control to the future, threatening established power. It is vigorously suppressed by all political structures, which replace it with a dociling and conformist education, reproducing privilege as wisdom. Schools are social devices whose specific function is to incapacitate learning, and universities are employed to legitimate schooling through perpetual reconstruction of global social memory. The meltdown of metropolitan education systems in the near future is accompanied by a quasi-punctual, bottom-up takeover of academic institutions, precipitating their mutation into amnesiac cataspace exploration zones and bases manufacturing Siberian software.
Sleepwalking prostitute unlocks the city gates. Icarus! Icarus, where are you? Primordial music allures twice-born libertines to the imminent carnival horizon. Whirling shadows no longer follow. Cosmogonic tension swells, awaiting Prometheus' return from the outside.